What's going on, everybody? My name is Josh Washburn of Washburn's Fabco, and today we're going to do a detailed breakdown of the cost associated with converting a 4x8 utility trailer with wood decking and wood walls to a trailer with a full steel construction. Right now, we got a heat wave going on in the Sacramento Valley. It's like 105 out, and in the shop, it's at least 100 something. So I didn't really feel like working on any projects this late in the day, so I figured it's a perfect time to catch up on some videos. Stay tuned for the end of this video for a full detailed breakdown of this cost associated with this project. It'll help give you a better idea of what something like this will cost for you to do at home on your own. Some things to take into consideration though, as always, if you don't have the right tool for the job and you try to do it without the right tool, you're going to end up spending a lot of extra time. We have all the tools that we need. This project didn't require anything super crazy. I think I cut some of the steel with the plasma table, which saved some time and made all my brackets on the plasma table. If you're doing them by hand, they're going to take you a good amount of time. So remember that you're going to have additionals and consumables costs, which I'm not going to include, as well as any tools that you don't have that are necessary to get the job done. Before we get started, I just want to remind you guys that we're doing a giveaway at 3,500 subscribers. If you didn't already know, we're giving away a Yes Welder Cut 65 DS Pro, the new model plasma cutter. I recently did a review on this machine, and I have been using the old model for over a year now. It was actually my first video on YouTube, and I'm satisfied with it. The new model's got a full digital display, which is pretty cool. So if you haven't seen those videos, check those out. I'll leave a link in the description below. So for this project, I didn't record anything super complex on how to do it, but I'll talk over some time lapse. As usual, I get distracted and forget to record, so there are some parts missing. I left out the removal of the old wood as well as putting the decking down, which is pretty straightforward. So let's take a look at this trailer before we did any work to it. Here's a look at the trailer, how it arrived. It had full wood construction like I mentioned earlier, and it's in a little bit of rough shape. Not terrible, but it had a door on the back originally, and it actually fell off when they brought it over here. So good thing we're getting rid of all of this wood. So I missed out on recording my helper do some work on this. He got the materials off the trailer and put that new deck down and got all the posts up. So what we went ahead and did on our walls here is we used 14 gauge sheet metal, and we put a bend on each side so that it would have a better looking fitment than if it was all open. It probably wouldn't look as good. You would have to completely weld the seams, which is going to leave you open to a lot of warping. Here in a few seconds, you'll see that I'm stitch welding the welds as I go as far as the sheet metal. Best practice on thin gauge material with running MIG is going to be to run these downhill and backstep. That's going to be important in making sure that your heat is more dispersed and not following the same direction all the way through the weld joint. While I was getting the rest of this welded out, my helper was getting the door cut and set up, which you can see here. We're making sure it was square. I have a video on how to square, plumb, and level gates and other frames of that fashion. Friendly reminder, the better your fit up, the better your welds. If you have some gaps in there, it's going to be tack and weld, and then you're going to have to grind and re-weld. The 14 gauge for the doors isn't very forgiving when it comes to welding butt joints. Setting up everything properly to work on a set of hinges like this is probably going to be the most complex part of the job if you're not familiar with doing gates in general. One big thing is to tack your hinges on. Don't just weld them right away. You may have to adjust after everything else is welded. I don't know what just happened, but the ground cable didn't like something. One thing that you're going to see about these budget machines is sometimes their ground cables are probably smaller than they should be. That's pretty much why my last one melted. And here we are finishing up the rest of the welds on this gate here and getting it ready to go. Here's how we have our latch set up. It's just one of these pull latches. I'm gonna open. One of the trickiest things about doing this is making the setup work on a trailer that's not built square to begin with. But basically, you're going to need some digital levels like this, and you're going to have to pick a point to reference. So I think when I referenced it, I just did the bottom was my reference on the bottom here, and then you set the rest of your posts like this to get it all squared up that way and square to itself all the way down. And then you need to find another reference point for this axis on all these posts. So I didn't want to get too detailed on the actual process of building the trailer, just a couple of tips. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I spent on this project. So for my total cost on my materials order for the steel was $645. Between the hinges and latches, we have $68. The square tubing for the rear gate, they missed on my materials order, but luckily I had some in stock here. I charged $55 for the square tubing. As for the expanded metal, I only charged $25. I also had that in stock here. For the paint, which isn't done yet, I've got Rust-Oleum turbo cans. These things are super nice to use. And for the 5-pack of those turbo cans, I believe it was about 80 bucks on Amazon. So in total material costs for this project, excluding any consumables or tools if you need to buy them, you're going to be sitting around 900 bucks just in materials. Not to mention your time. This is going to take up quite a bit of your time, especially if you aren't used to doing projects like this. If it's something you do all the time, it might take you a couple days, depending on how fast you work and what tools you have available to your use. These prices do not have any sort of markup on them. That's just what I paid. You might not be able to get them that cheap, but I think I get my material from one of the best around in the Sacramento Valley. You might spend more being that you're not a business getting the materials. All right, I hope this video gave you guys an idea of the general cost associated with converting one of these wooden trailers to a full metal construction. If you have any questions and are going to DIY this yourself, feel free to reach out to me. As well as if you need any plasma cut parts, you can always message me for a quote. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.